Hello, everybody. Welcome to another Comic Boom Comic Source collaboration. It's your DC Spotlight for the week of August 19th, 2026. Happy New Comic Book Day to all those who celebrate. Pretty solid week from DC this week, 13 books. But Rocky and I were chatting before we started. We actually have very similar rankings this time. It's not always the case, but definitely the case this week. Had a chance to talk with Doug Wagner this week. Hope you guys got a opportunity to go over to the Comic Source YouTube channel and check that out. He's got a Kickstarter campaign going on right now with Murder Chickens that includes a card game, kind of like an Uno style card game, which is awesome. And if you're not familiar with Doug Wagner, him and Daniel Hilliard, who's the artist he frequently collaborates, they did things like plastic, vinyl, plush. I was Fashion School, Serial Killer, Narco, which really kind of blew up this week. So yeah, this book, it just sounds wild and crazy. It's I love apocalypse zombie misfits is the name of it. And I mean, the thing that really, there's this character called Tuck, which is a food truck, but a sentient food truck that's fused with a zombie. So it's like a zombie food truck, a redneck zombie food truck. So yeah, crazy ideas like that. And then these immortal murder chickens, these chickens that you find a way to kill them and they just reincorporate themselves. Like anyway, it sounds totally crazy. And if you've ever read any of Wagner and Hilliard stuff, it might be right up your alley. So I encourage you to go and check that out. Don't forget, if you want a Comic Source Weekly shirt, I'm going to be doing the order hopefully next week. I just want to leave it open for one more week. I've heard from a few different people. And kind of on that note, before we get started, before I throw it over to Rocky to get his take on the week of DC books overall, I want to shout out Gavin Guidry, who came up and introduced himself at San Diego Comic-Con this last year. I kept meaning to mention this, and I kept forgetting. I was kind of bummed out that I didn't have a Comic Source Weekly shirt with me at the time. Like I mentioned, I think I still had a few left. I ended up giving them all away except for this one that I'm wearing. But I think I still had some left at the time that Gavin came up and introduced himself, but I didn't have one with me. So I know he listens to the show. So I say, Gavin, reach out and give me your address. I want to send you one. And Lucas Meyer as well, who's been a long time listener and is a fantastic artist. So Gavin, Lucas, go to the link tree in the show notes, and you can find a way to contact me there and get your address. I'd love to send you guys a couple of Comic Source Weekly shirts. So anyway, throw it over to you, Rocky. How did you feel about the week of DC books overall?
I thought it was, once again, I find myself, I thought it was a meh week. It was an easy choice for my top five. It was a really easy choice for my top five. But at the same time, I can't honestly say there's a couple I'll be critical of, but there's in solid meh to good territory. So, and again, it's a great place to be because I don't want to kick a gift horse in the mouth because I know what it's like. Probably what Marvel Zombies are feeling right now is what we used to feel like reviewing DC Comics, like maybe 5-6 years ago. And it's great. It's great to have this feeling where, I enjoyed reading all the comics this week. Most of them never blew me away, but it was an easy choice for my top five. But then we get things like last week, which was the whole damn every comic I read was really good. So yeah, it was. It was a decent week, but it's par for the course for DC. Just solid, good comics. But this week it was much easier to choose the top five.
Yeah, it is interesting. I still hear a lot of people lamenting Marvel and poo-pooing on their output. And again, it's not that it's not deserved, right? But here's the thing. It's sort of the lag. Right. Yeah. You can almost liken it to like baseball contracts if you're a baseball fan, or I mean, really all sports contracts, but baseball's especially. When you hit free agency, you're usually around like 28 or 29, and it's been shown time and time again, sometimes 30. So somewhere in that range, age 28, 29, 30. But it's been shown time and time again, like overall, if you just take the average age when a baseball player, Major League Baseball player in the U.S. has his peak season, it's usually when he's 28 years old. That's the average age for the best season you've ever had. So when you think about a lot of times, the first time you hit free agency and you get that big contract is often after that peak season. And so you're being paid for what you've already done to some extent, right? I mean, that's all that they have to go on. This is this guy's track record. He's really good. We're going to pay him. But when you look at it, most players rarely live up to that big contract. They're being paid on past performance, and that's why there's been some labor disputes, and we're probably heading for a lockout next year because the owners just don't want to pay these ridiculous salaries anymore. So it's interesting because I feel like that's sort of where we are with Marvel right now. I feel like Marvel, they hit the bottom, and I'm not saying that it couldn't have gotten worse in terms of quality. You know, it could have got worse. It really could have, but they still are paying the lowest page rates. But creatively, with the ideas they're coming up with and just the quality of the books, they are on the upswing. So I don't want to pile on and say, you know, Marvel is crap, because it was really bad for a while there earlier this year. I mean, really bad. They're doing some good things right now. The Avengers Armageddon event is pretty solid. The Queen in Black event is selling really, really well. Daredevil, Hulk, you know, but again, Daredevil, it just started earlier this year. It's only on issue 7. Hulk's been good for a long time with PKJ. I think it's like issue 8 or 9 for Iron Man from Joshua Williamson. So that's relatively recent as well. There's still, don't get me wrong, there's still a lot of bad books coming from Marvel, but I do want to be fair and say they are on the upswing. I do have to also admit, though, that this idea of the Marvel superhero universe crossing over with Star Wars reeks of desperation to me. Like, reeks of desperation. I have
zero interest in that, and personally.
I'll pick up, I generally like the things that Kevin Smith does. I like Star Wars. I like the Marvel universe. I'll check it out. I'll pick up the first issue at least. But again, this was stuff that was put in motion for something like that. That was put in motion long before. I mean, I have a feeling that was put in motion when things were at their bleakest for Marvel. And it's one of those things because Lucasfilm has to get involved with which, you know, they are a division of Disney, and Disney owns Marvel as well. So ultimately it's going to all get approved or whatever, but it takes longer to develop something like that. So yeah, that news just reeks of desperation to me. So I don't know, but it'll probably sell well. But anyway, I covered it on the Comic Source Weekly. Go and check that out. And one last thing that I will mention, because I want to get your take on this, because I know you're a fan of his, Rocky. But the news that came out last week, I covered it on the show delicately because you don't want to piss this guy off. But and I know you know who I'm talking about now that I said that. But more stuff came out today. Fake news. I didn't say blah blah blah. So you know, obviously I'm talking about Rob Liefeld and his. He said one thing in 2001. Yeah. He reiterated and doubled down that in 2011. And now in 2026, he's saying, I didn't say that. Mm-hmm. I didn't write that column. I didn't say that on the YouTube video of myself on a panel at a convention. He's blaming it on AI. He's blaming the article from 2001 that he wrote that directly contradicts what he's saying now. He's saying that article was AI. Yeah. It didn't exist in 2001, Rob. AI wasn't a thing back then. And even if you're saying somebody wrote it with AI now and is backdating it, no, these are on Google Archives. There's no way to fake those. Not to mention that if you go to other comic book message boards around that time, there are various ones from back then that have responses to what was said. So it's not like this just got generated and somebody's backdated it. You really did write. It was under your name. You are the byline. Whether it was ghostwritten and somebody else wrote it, that's entirely possible.
Yeah. What was honestly, it? What was the?
It's all to do with Cable's origin.
Oh,
so
yeah.
At
right.
Terrificon, not last weekend, but the weekend before, Louise Simonson and Fabian Nicieza, who were both working in the X office at the time, mentioned that the whole idea of turning Cable into Nathan Summers, or having Cable be the grown-up Nathan Summers, the
son of Colossus,
of Madeline, of Cyclops and Madeline Pryor,
right?
That was sent into the future to save him from being killed by the techno-organic virus. He eventually becomes Cable, and he travels back in time. And apparently that was decided by Jim Lee, Whilce Portacio, and Bob Harras. Bob Harras being the editor of Uncanny X-Men at the time. Whilce Portacio and Jim Lee being the creatives on Uncanny X-Men at the time. So that was decided by them. And when Bob Harras called Rob, and again, this is what he said in 2001 and doubled down on it in 2011. He said when Bob Harras called to tell him that, he politely pushed back. Now, if there's any evidence that he didn't write it, the article that was on Spinner Rack in 2001, it's saying I politely pushed back, because I mean that's the most unbelievable thing of all. It's not necessarily unbelievable to think one way or the other, but Rob pushing back on something politely doesn't sound like something Rob would do, right? But no. So in 2001 and again on a panel in 2011, he said no. He was upset that they had taken a character that he created and arbitrarily decided that he was somebody else. His original intent was for Cable to be Sam Guthrie, Cannonball, grown up and come back to the future. But what Rob says now, as this information about Lee and Harris and Portacio making this decision and informing Rob, this is the information that Nicieza and Louise Simonson talked about on a panel at Terrificon a couple weeks ago. And when that came out, Bleeding Cool wrote a couple articles on it. And Rob's like, that's all BS. That's not what happened. I always intended him to be Nathan Summers. This is ridiculous, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. And he points to, as evidence, X-Force 1, which has Cable using telekinesis and Domino like calling him out on it because they're like in this hangar or something and nobody else is around and he's using telekinesis, and Domino's like, don't, what are you using those powers for? You're gonna give it away or whatever. And Rob's like, that's his evidence that he was the son of Madeline Pryor, who was a clone of Jean Grey, so thus would have telekinesis, right? So that's Rob's proof. I don't know what the truth. It seems more plausible to go that way. Like, why would he be, if he really was Sam Guthrie, why did he have telekinesis? So I'm sort of inclined to believe that would be the case. So then the question becomes, but why did you say what you said on that panel in 2011, and why did you write that column? Although now he's saying he didn't write the column in 2001. But regardless, my whole point when I covered this on the Comic Source Weekly was that this is the problem when it comes to comics, right? Because a lot of this stuff is sort of behind the scenes. Yeah. And for lack of a better term, to kind of have this stuff out there at the time it's happening, these sort of creative differences would be kind of like airing dirty laundry. And the publishers don't want that. They want the news and the coverage and the gossip or whatever to be focused on what's happening in the books themselves. But then there are there's a certain faction of fan base that we want to know this stuff. Like, I want to know who I should give credit for this, creating this character or that character, or make this decision or that decision. Like, just in terms of like historical significance or whatever, you kind of want to know, but we don't really know, and we will never really know, and it becomes kind of messy. So at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter. I mean, people are like, it doesn't matter, Cable stopped being relevant like a long time ago and blah blah blah. But it's just funny that Rob is literally arguing with himself in a lot of ways. So that continues to get a bunch of coverage. So I just thought I'd mention it here.
Rob is a colorful character. I love listening to Rob's observations. He's always great for a story, and you can always take what he says with a grain of salt when it comes to creators and their collaborations, and especially when these characters or these storylines become really popular over time. Because often storylines when they first come out, they're just storylines, but then when they become more popular, I mean, then it's kind of hard not to take credit for it, to do a little bit of rewriting of history in your mind, especially if you played a part in it. I mean, we all do it, I think, in our own way. It gets harder and harder to remember things as you get older. I mean, I'm not saying that Rob's doing this out of like malicious intent or whatever. It may be what he believes and what he remembers now, but what he remembers now apparently was different 25 years ago.
Yeah,
I'm more I'm more interested in his writing Superman. He's writing a Superman story for when Superman becomes public domain, and that'll be.
That is a rumor. That is a rumor. That is a rumor. Everybody, that has not been confirmed. Again, in your own words, Rocky, take what he says with a grain of salt. He does make a good point, though. He says, Superman's not going to be in the public domain for 8 more years. When I think Rob will be like 64. I think he's 56 now. And his point is, if I'm going to write and draw a Superman story, I rather, he indicated that he feels like 56-year-old Rob Liefeld would do a better job of writing and drawing a Superman story than 64-year-old Rob Liefeld would. And he's probably right. Those kind of skills don't necessarily they're not improving at this point in his life. So, yeah, he's probably right. So I hope he is working on it now to release it when Superman does go into public domain. But also, for Rob, he's drawn the cover, or he's come up with, the splash page, because he's got any number of things that he has started and never finished in his life. Many, 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 many things. Mm-hmm. So, Youngblood Kickstarter, or Brigade, right? The Brigade Kickstarter comes to mind. So, yeah. Anyway, let's get started. We're going to kick it off with Dark Knights of Steel #2. This came into my top 5. Came in at number 4 for me. It's written by Tom Taylor. The art is by Otto Schmidt, Arif Prianto on colors, Wes Abbott on letters. I enjoy this for what it is. I not necessarily a fan of Amanda Waller in this iteration any more than I am in the main universe. This, I won't go so far as to say it doesn't have a lot of action. There's a lot of interpersonal and political action in it. And there's like flashbacks in terms of action and what have you. And there's one kind of minor skirmish, but the action that you have in terms of physical action isn't the hero, isn't the main characters in a lot of ways. It's sort of, like these citizens fighting back against the city guard or what have you. So it makes for a little bit of a slow burn issue in a lot of ways. But I do like the ideas, and I do like the expansion of the world that's being built here by Tom Taylor. And while I'm not super happy to see Amanda Waller up to her old tricks, and I have a feeling that she's going to be a central figure, a central antagonist in this entire arc, so that kind of predisposes me a little bit to not like it. But at the same time, I'm trying to keep an open mind, because there are other things that I really enjoy, like seeing Barbara Gordon as a literal oracle, being able to catch glimpses of things that are happening and what have you.
And she's the daughter of Amanda Waller too.
Yeah, Amanda Waller and Jim Gordon. God, Jim, how could you touch that with a 10-foot pole? But
yeah, he must have really been drunk that night. I tell you what.
Yeah, really. Had about 17 too many flagons of mead.
Yeah, well, a 10 at 2 is a 2 at 10, right?
Yeah, exactly. But the other thing that I like is also the burgeoning relationship or burgeoning exploration, maybe I should say, of the relationship between Kal-El and Lois, because that's one of my favorite comic book couples of all time. Yeah. So I enjoy that as well. And then the Otto Schmidt art, is gorgeous, the colors and what have you. So there's a lot to like here, despite the fact that Amanda is taking a more primary role. So yeah, it came in at number 4 for me. I am enjoying it, but I will say in a week that was a little bit stronger, it probably wouldn't have made my top 5, but it does this week, and enough said, I guess. So, what are your thoughts, Rocky?
Yeah, I echo a lot of that. It wouldn't have made my top 5 last week. Wouldn't have made my probably would have came in closer to the bottom last week. It was so good last week, but Tom Taylor writes a good story here, and he's building his own mythology. This is his own universe. It's Game of Thrones in the DC universe, really, in this alternate take. And the elves have their own kingdom, and you got the king. There's the Jeffrey, the Black Lightning has his own kingdom. The elves, Superman family has their own kingdom. Then we got Aquaman, the young Aqua boy, sort of coming into his own. and Amanda Waller having her machinations, who's actually a sort of part of the Queen's Guard of the Kingdom of El. Batman's off the playing field. He's not quite, I'm not sure where he is in the storyline yet. But meanwhile, there's some kryptonite. There's some sort of disease or something that's an affliction that's causing Kara and the Els and the El family. Perhaps it's kryptonite poisoning of some kind that's causing them to suffer. Clearly, Amanda Waller probably has something to do with it, but it might also be caused by magic. And so there's forces at play here. There is a budding Justice League, or a league of sort of a league of justice among all these kingdoms in this universe, and it's just at its early beginnings, and so it hasn't quite really formed yet. It's a loose alliance, but an alliance nonetheless. And Tom Taylor's taken his time, and I want him to take his time weaving all the parts together, because at the end of the day, just like he did with Injustice, I anticipate this is going to be one beautiful series at the end of the day. This is of course the second volume, but I anticipate that there's going to be more. So I would encourage anybody to pick this up. Pick up the first trade. You'll enjoy it. All the players are put into play, and pick up this one as well.
Yeah, second volume of Dark Knights of Steel, as indicated by the 2 on the cover, but the third story set in this world, because we did have the Endless
that's right.
Winter.
Endless, yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
yep.
I think that's what it was called.
Yeah, I stand corrected. Yep.
Yeah, and that's where we saw Batman was Bruce Wayne. This world's Bruce Wayne was
and
a part of that.
Deathstroke.
He did show up. He did show up. So, but I imagine he's going to be returning. Because once he found out, spoilers for the first volume here. But once he found out that it was his father, right? His father wasn't Thomas Wayne like he believed. His father was Jor-El. That kind of sent him on a walkabout. And so he does have some Kryptonian powers as well, which I really like. I really like that. I like that he's half brothers with Cal, with Superman.
Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah. So I imagine we'll see the return of him at some point. Maybe perhaps he'll be the one to come in and save the day and realize that Amanda Waller is behind the machinations. I guess we'll wait and see. All right. Up next, we have Lobo number 6 from writer Skottie Young. Riley Rosmo handles the art in this issue. A great choice for drawing of filling in as an artist on Lobo. I think he does a fantastic job. Jean-Francois Billou handles the colors as usual, and then Nate Picos is on the letters. That being said, I really did not care much for this particular issue of Lobo. It came in at 12 for me. It's fun, and it definitely feels like it's right in line with the tone that Skottie Young has had for this throughout. But I just didn't particularly care for the story. The whole idea of going to hell and Tooth Fairy and blah blah blah. It just didn't do it for me. So it ranked toward the lower end for me. Anything to add, Rocky?
I wish that there's a silliness factor here. There's different ways to write Lobo, and that is and while this is crazy and over the top. This one definitely airs on the side. His style, Skottie Young is going just like his Image series there with that Tooth Fairy character. I can't remember the name of the character, but like really, really over the top. And I kind of
the little girl's Gertrude, right? I hate her Fairyland.
Yeah, Fairyland. Yeah, I hate Fairyland. And that one is really over the top too. This one feels more and more like that, which is what I don't want. I kind of like, I want just a little bit more of air of realism with Lobo, a little bit more where he's in the DC universe and having a blast. This is just going to hell, taking on the Tooth Fairy. I don't know. It's all right. It's okay, but again, Lobo's Lobo. I almost feel this is almost in the category of Harley Quinn to me at this point, where occasionally we can say the story is good. It's just not for me. That's kind of where this is with Lobo, and this was. But having said this, I did have fun with it, and it was sort of in the middle of the pile for me this week.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. I don't need Lobo to, I'm not picking up Lobo to tie in with the overall all-in story, right? With like, I need to know what's going on with Darkseid and the Absolute Universe and that sort of stuff. So I better pick up Lobo this week to figure out what, the larger events of the DCU. But also it shouldn't feel like that Lobo doesn't matter. You know what I mean? And that's kind of my
Well,
criticism.
that's what
of
it
this
feels like.
issue. Yeah, it felt like this issue, like you could completely skip this issue because it didn't really tie in. And I like the fact that what we've been getting from Skottie is it has been tying in. There has been, it wasn't overt. It didn't feel like when that first story arc ended, you know, with him losing his reality TV bounty hunter job. It didn't feel like that was going to continue to be part of the story going forward. But characters and plot points from that have continued to in fact show up. And here, this is not connected to anything that's come before, at least as far as we know. And so that, yeah, it feels like it loses something for that. So anyway, moving on. Up next, another book that's in my top 5, End of Life, number 7, written by Kyle Stark. Steve Pugh handles the art, Chris O'Halloran on colors, Becca Carey on letters. Yeah, this is in my top 3. This continues to be one of my favorite DC books that's coming out right now. And just in terms of ranking this against previous issues of End of Life, this probably doesn't make my top 3 favorite End of Life issues because it is a lot of setup. But that just speaks to the quality that even though it might not even be in my top 5 favorite End of Life issues, but it still makes my top 3 overall. And again, you know, it is because this week there was a little bit less competition for really, really great books, but I just continue to love the art. I continue to love the characters. I love the way that sort of antithetical to what I was just talking about with Lobo, where it felt like the issue 6 that we just got didn't call back or tie into anything that's come before. The consistency with which Kyle Starks and Steve Pugh call back to previous events for Eddie Stallion and his dad and the other citizens of the small town of Pluto make this feel immersive and make it feel like as you're reading it, you're being rewarded for the fact that you've been along for the ride the whole time, whether it's, you know, what might seemingly be a throwaway line or a little in joke or whatever. If you've been reading it from the beginning, like we have, it feels like it matters, right? It's not so dissimilar from, I mean, I grew up in a very small town, right? So you would hear things and, you know, gossip and whatever, and you feel like, and you kind of want to know, right? I mean, we all have that a little bit. Well, most of us do, you know, that kind of nosy neighbor kind of thing at times where you want to know the gossip and you want to know the goings on. And especially if it's something that's kind of dramatic or what have you, where you, wait, so-and-so did what? Or so-and-so boyfriend cheated with who? And blah, blah, blah. You just kind of, and that's sort of what this feels like with End of Life, that you're sort of being, you're part of the in crowd if you've been reading it because of the strength of Kyle Stark's writing and also the art for Steve Pugh. So I don't hear enough people talking about how great this book is. I really don't. I mean, everybody at my comic shop, I got them all picking it up and reading it, and we all love it. But in the larger scope of things, I wonder, I guess I should, you know, I'm going to look while you talk about it, Rocky. I'm going to go and look and see where it ranked the last time on the Prana bestseller, the last time it came out. So, but meanwhile, take it away. Give us your thoughts on it.
It's entertaining as hell. And this feels like it should be on HBO, an HBO sort of comedy, ultra-violent flick. I mean, Eddie's a hitman. Eddie's father basically created this hitman organization. His father's now retired, living in Pluto. But Eddie, of course, because of the shenanigans of what happened in the first issue, ends up having a hit put out on him because he unfortunately ends up taking out a number of people who happen to be affiliated with other heads of the Hitman organization. And for the last 6 issues, they've been sort of hunting Eddie down to basically punish him. And of course, you've got all kinds of crazy, outrageous figures going after Eddie. Meanwhile, he's got sort of a high school crush that he still has a thing for in Pluto. He's got a horribly dysfunctional relationship with his father. His father's dying of cancer, and but at the same time, he also cares about his dad. Kyle Starks does an amazing job of showing the outrageousness and the craziness of these characters, but also showing the very human side that that, when you spend a lifetime sort of repressing your soft side because you're a badass, and that's what Eddie Stallion is, and then when he's got to show a softer side, the subtle ways that he does so, often without dialogue, but just in his actions that are beautifully conveyed by the artist. It's just a story that really resonates. And while at the same time, you'd be forgiven for just reading this story and being completely taken in by the comedic aspects of it, and not even bothering to necessarily get into the seriousness of some of the subject matter. But it's there, and all of this is wrapped up in a nice ball, and every issue has something to offer. This issue, Eddie, unfortunately, he's been captured, and he escapes, he gets the crap beat out of him, and dialogue's great, and it's clear that his father discovers that he's missing because Eddie actually did a good thing. They're shocked. Eddie did a good thing. He went after to try to rescue a kid that was taken, and he ends up getting caught by the guys that are after him. And ultimately, this issue ends sort of somewhat hilariously because this character called Little Cock has finally found him, and Little Cock is upset because his best friend Big Cock was killed by Eddie in a previous issue. I'm not making this up, people. If you haven't read this, you got to read it. And believe it or not, it's actually kind of a serious story. Well written. Great dialogue, funny, and yeah, if you're not reading End of Life, I don't know why you're not.
Yeah, it's a great way to put it. If you're not reading End of Life, I don't know why not. Skylar Patridge has a variant cover, which is really cool, which brings me to the point that once again, I forgot to talk about the variant covers for, yeah, that's it right there. Forgot to talk about the variants, so we'll go back real quick because I really want to call out, okay, we can do Lobo. Yeah, Lobo. That is, correct me if I'm wrong, but that kind of looks like the new 52 Lobo that people kind of hate on. Looks more like that than the regular Lobo. That's a Steven Subic cover. There's also a David Nakayama Lobo cover, which, Nakayama's got really clean lines. And so it's one of the more cleaner illustrations of Lobo that I've seen, which is really fantastic. Then the one behind me is by Raleigh Rosmo, which is really great as well. And then when it comes to Dark Knights of Steel, I really got to shout out the aforementioned Lucas Meyer. He did an incredible kind of montage piece, cover D for Dark Knights of Steel, which is really great. There's also a Travis Moore cover and a Gerald Perel cover for Dark Knights of Steel. Yeah, that's the Travis Moore one that's in the middle. The that one right there is Lucas Meyer, and then the one behind me is the Gerald Perel. But yeah, that Travis Moore cover is awesome.
Gorgeous. Yeah.
So I did look it up while you were talking. The previous issue of End of Life, which is what we have the most recent sales numbers, it came in at 49 out of the top 400. So not terrible.
Not bad.
But
that's ahead of a lot of other mainstream DC titles and Marvel.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. But still, that being said, I still feel like it deserves to be higher because it's such a great book. So, all right. Up next, we have Deathstroke, the Terminator, issue number 6, part 6 for Killer for Hire, but the for hire is crossed out. When you read the story, you will understand why that is. It's from Tony Fleecs as writer, Carmine di Giandomenico handles the art, Yvonne Placencia on colors, Wes Abbott on letters. I'm really enjoying this. We had talked a few times before about feeling at times like the story that Tony Fleecs is writing feels like a little bit derivative. It feels like we've seen this story before, but he keeps kind of turning up the screws or tightening the screws on Slade Wilson and what he's going through and kind of turning up the volume on the story. And, I told Tony this when I saw him at San Diego. I was like, yeah, I first couple of issues kind of said like, yeah, we've been down this road before with Slade, but then you just kept taking it that next step further and further and further. When it was revealed last issue that his ex-wife Adelaide was the one behind the killing of Wintergreen, and in this issue she tries to kill Rose Wilson. Again, she's not Rose's mother. Rose has the same father as Adelaide's son, but yeah, basically Slade cheated on Adelaide and had Rose with somebody else, and so Adelaide doesn't have any particular affinity or affection for Rose Wilson. It all makes sense in terms of Adelaide wanting to have revenge and what have you. The only thing, and it's like the minorest nitpick. It doesn't bother me, but I'm going to point it out because I feel like there might be people that will complain about it, because it mentions the fact that Adelaide sort of was Slade's training officer at one point when he first joined the Special Force. So I don't know, she might be a little bit older or what have you. But we've never seen her have this level of capability before. Like she's formidable. She fights Slade to a standstill. She's thinking, ahead of him. Like she's really got him in a bad spot. And I could see Deathstroke fans being like, "Oh, Adelaide has never been portrayed as being this much of a threat or having this level of skill before." Mm-hmm. Again, it doesn't bother me because it's not like any writer came out and said that she didn't, and Fleecs is not, coloring outside the lines here. Or
but wasn't I stand to be corrected, but for some reason I seem to think that doesn't he have enhanced? Doesn't Slade have enhanced reflexes and stuff?
He does.
So then she would have had to have maybe she got hers enhanced too. Maybe I don't know.
Or she does at the end lose the fight. He does really injure her and chooses not to kill her, but she's also not necessarily taking him head on for the majority. Right?
Yeah.
And keep in mind that what Slade has gone through the first 5 issues, I know it wasn't necessarily a level of violence in the first issue that Rocky might have wanted, but he, got blown up. He got like
not enough violence.
Yeah, that he got shot multiple times. He took on Death Blow and Deadshot. They wounded him, whatever. So I say all that only to say, when she fights him at the beginning of this issue, he's not at 100%. If he is completely rested and ready to go, it might not have been as, she might have been defeated much quicker or what have you. But it's neither here nor there. I mean, it's going to be whatever the fight's going to be, whatever the fight needs to be in order to service the story that Tony Fleecs is telling. So I really enjoy this. I'm impressed by this. I like this. And for that reason, it made my top 3. Where Slade goes from here is going to be really interesting, because the other thing that Fleecs does is he frames this entire issue with a letter that Slade is writing to Rose, because she does survive the attack from Adelaide, and he's basically writing to her, with regret, like, yeah, I wasn't the father that I should have been, and I'm sorry about that, and if I'm not the world's greatest assassin, which is kind of how he branded himself, then what does that leave for me, and what have you. And that's what Adelaide was trying to take over, why she killed Wintergreen and was trying to kind of usurp Slade's position as Deathstroke and as the world's greatest assassin. So he's like, and that goes into the idea of the story being called Killer for Hire, but in the 6th issue, the for hire is crossed out, because for Slade, he's like, if I'm not the world's greatest assassin, if I'm not the best killer for hire, then what does that leave? Then I'm just a killer. There's no, like, the pride is gone. So at the end of this arc, Slade is really, Tony Fleecs has left Slade in a very, very low place, and it's an interesting place. And yes, there are aspects of the story that maybe feel derivative. We've been down this path before, but I can't ever remember a time where Slade, his self-confidence is as low as it is, but at the end of the story, that's one of the things about Slade, is his belief in himself, which you could almost say that's his most enduring quality. The belief, his belief that he can always get out of any situation. He's always going to come out on top. He may take his lumps, he's not going to come out unscathed, but he will come out the other side. And now it just seems like the guy's ready to give up. So what's the point? What's the purpose for Tony Fleecs to tear Slade down to this level? I mean, we often talk about the best stories for characters, it's tearing them down to build them back up. So is that the case here? I mean, it is a little cliched if that is the case, but you could also say it depends on how Fleecs builds him back up. If and when he builds him back up, that might be the most interesting part, right? Like, okay, Deathstroke's a pretty popular character. We know he's eventually going to come back to true, because there's too much value in the character to not have him return to, somewhat of a status quo. But the joy and the enjoyment we'll get as fans is the journey, right? Like, okay, eventually he's going to get to that point where he's back to what he was, but right now he's way down here. So what's the journey to go from where he is now to get back to that status quo? And that will be where Fleecs can really show his chops. So the Giandomenico art is fantastic, as it's been throughout. So he has a very fluidic style. I've talked about that before. It's why his art works so well in Flash. And it really works here. So I thought this was a great issue. I'm really enjoying this Deathstroke run. It's probably my favorite Deathstroke run since the Christopher Priest run, which was probably my previous favorite.
Yeah, Deathstroke Incorporated.
Yeah. Yeah.
I love the white outfits. Yeah. I remember that fondly.
Yeah, and that's not to say that the Ed Brisson run wasn't great as well.
Yeah,
but that was a bit of a kind of a retelling of the origin, so to speak. So anyway, what are your thoughts on this latest issue of Deathstroke, Rocky?
I find it very interesting because at the end, the title, I guess, of this entire issue is part 6, called "Killer for Hire" with the "for hire" crossed out. Like you said, what's a killer for hire? If he's no longer for hire and you're just left with the killer, that's kind of boring, isn't it? Like what's like? So I share your sentiment. This has been a really great story in a sense. It's funny. Usually, how you tear down a hero is that you destroy their lives. And you kill their loved ones, and then the hero has to come back. Well, now they've done the same thing with the villain here, arguably a villain. Most of the time, Slade's been a villain most of the time. He's an anti-hero sometimes. And now you've killed his loved ones, and you've injured Rose. Well, okay, so now what are you left with? What is Tony? I'm actually very curious, as you alluded to yourself, you are as well. Where does Tony Fleecs go from here? Where do you take a killer now who's given up? He's so guilty because, and I got to be honest, part of me, I do sympathize. I don't forgive Adele for actually killing, or Adeline for killing, pardon me, for shooting Rose in the head. That's a horrible thing to do. But Adeline was probably a little bit. You can't blame Slade for her choices, but at the same time, Slade, I mean, just has always pushed buttons, and now all of a sudden, now that it wasn't. All the stuff that happened to his sons was arguably related from his own actions, and all the horrible things he's done to the Titans and that he's done to so many people. And bear in mind, Slade is also basically, he was the de facto leader of all the supervillains at least in Dark Crisis. And he's been a really bad man sometimes, not just a bad guy, not just a killer, but a really bad villain. And where do you go from here? I don't know. It's kind of weird to talk about Slade, like, so Deathstroke comes back and what? He's going to charge double than what he normally does? Like, how are you going to make Slade different? What's he going to be? He's going to wander the streets and what? Is he going to be like, I don't know, is he going to be like Punisher now? Does DC need a Punisher? I don't know. Like, the Punisher doesn't hire himself out. He just punishes. Is Deathstroke now just he's gonna punish people that did what Adeline did? Like, what's his reason for existing now? What is his purpose going to be? That's the big question. And kudos to Tony Fleecs. He's making me ask that question. And I'm genuinely, sincerely interested in the answer that Tony Fleecs had for us moving forward. And kudos to Carmine Giandomenico on the art and the cover, even Placencia on the colors. These first 6 issues have been better than I anticipated.
Yeah, it's where he goes from here. It's the operative question. Some really great variant covers. Dan Panosian on that cover there that Rocky's got in the middle. The one that's behind Rocky, which it's such a hard choice between those two. That one's by Carlos Deanda. And then the one that's up there right now is by Dyke Ruin, which, I mean, even the main cover from Giandomenico, which is behind me, is awesome. So no matter which of the 4 covers you pick this week, I don't think you can go wrong. I think I've been ordering the Panosian one, but I don't know, that Carlos Deanda one looks great as well with, the target or the bullseye or whatever you want to call it around Slade. It looks really, really cool. So, all right. Up next, it doesn't make my top 5. It's Catwoman number 90. which is the end of the latest arc from writer Torunn Gronbekk, with art by David Jean-Felice, Patricio Delbesch on colors, and Steve Wands on letters. This one came in for me at number 9. It did wrap up the Black Mask storyline, where he's been teamed up with I can never remember the character's name.
The female.
Belova.
Yeah. Volova.
First name, which I can't. Katerina, I think.
Katerina Volova. Yeah.
So it does wrap that up, and I won't go so far as to say it wraps it up conveniently, but it doesn't necessarily feel like a satisfying conclusion. Like, I think she's dead, but also Gronbekk leaves it open-ended for both Belova and Black Mask. And, Black Mask's been around for a long time. I'm sure he'll survive as well. Interesting choice from Gronbekk to have Maggie Kyle be the one that sort of comes in and saves Selina Kyle. That definitely is something that I haven't seen before. So I think all that really works. And it also looks like Carmine Falcone is going to continue to be a member of the supporting cast. Gronbekk is really leaning into the whole familial relationship of those characters. But I do wonder if, this has been hinted at in the past. We can go all the way back to Frank Miller's Year One, which was when Falcone was first appeared in comics. Supposedly he'd been in Gotham for a long time or whatever, but it was when he first appeared, first publishing appearance or what have you. But you can go all the way back to that for the sort of hints or subtle subtext of Selina Kyle being the daughter of Falcone. But with Gronbekk leaning so hard into it and more as the story goes on, it almost makes me less inclined to believe it. You know what I mean? Like, it's one thing to hint at or whatever, but it's almost to the point where it's coming out and it's almost in black and white called out, yeah, you're my daughter. Everybody's acknowledging it. And I almost feel like the closer we get to that point, like as soon as it gets like officially acknowledged is when the rug will be pulled out from under us and we'll find out, no, Falcone just wanted to make Selina think that so he could get her on his side to, use her to try to maintain his power or regain more power in Gotham or whatever. And I have no reason to think that other than I've seen that done before. That's a thing that writers will do. They'll lead you down one direction. And, the more you become convinced of you're on the right path, that's when they want to subvert things. Mm-hmm. So it's purely like a speculation on my part. But in the back of my mind, I'm holding that option to be able to say, see, I told you guys. So anyway, I am enjoying this, but yeah, Catwoman has been more miss than hit for me in this run. And I've said it before, I'll say it again. This is a kind of long form storytelling that probably reads better in a trade. What are your thoughts on it, Rocky?
Yeah, I agree. I just and again, I said it once, and it's I know art's subjective, but the art's just been since on Torunn Gronbekk's entire run, the art has never really resonated with me. But I do want to give a shout out to a story element in this issue here, which I think was underdeveloped, and I think should have been the center point of this entire arc. It would have been, in my view, better. Now, I know what I'm engaging in now is what we reviewers should not do, but I'm going to do it anyway, so I apologize, and that is play script doctor. But the fact is, for those who know anything about Maggie Kyle, let me give you a little bit of background here. This is Maggie Kyle's revenge on Black Mask. You want to know what Black Mask did to Maggie Kyle? Maggie Kyle killed her husband. Maggie Kyle used to be a nun. Maggie and Selina Kyle grew up. They're sisters. They had a falling out. Maggie Kyle became a nun. Catwoman became a thief. And then later on, she gave up being a nun. She married a guy named Simon. Maggie Kyle married a guy named Simon. Black Mask killed Simon in front of Maggie Kyle and made Maggie eat his eyeballs. Go back to Joelle Jones' run, issue 4. Really sick stuff. So if any, and Maggie Kyle had to be institutionalized, it traumatized her, as you can bloody well imagine. This was a huge deal. This is Maggie Kyle's revenge. And why isn't what I just said more prominent in this storyline? This is Maggie Kyle's revenge. Maggie Kyle overcame all that trauma to go. She was Selena told her to stay away. Maggie Kyle confronts her tormentor, confronts Black Mask. And he torments her, and she pokes him with a nerve agent. Good for you, Maggie Kyle. That's awesome. I just wish the high point of this story arc should have been Maggie Kyle's redemption, her coming back, her agency, her reclaiming her agency, her bravery, overcoming that trauma. And it was so underwhelming. And that's what I find so disappointing. So on the one hand, thank you, Torunn Brombal, for sort of giving Maggie that opportunity and that scene, but it could have been so much more and ought to have been more, in my opinion. So that's why this is the highest I've ever ranked this. I put Catwoman 90 here, right at number 6 for me. Just because of that alone, I appreciated that, so I rewarded it by putting it up to number 6 on my rankings. But.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was getting at when I was saying that it ended a little too conveniently or too abruptly. You know, she shows up, she gives him the nerve agent, whatever. I would have liked for her to, which I sort of get it, right? It's almost like I'm gonna have my revenge, and you're not even worth me wasting my breath on or whatever. But at the same time, I almost wanted her to be like, you know, this is what you get, and blah 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 blah, and see him suffer more, and you know, make sure he's actually gone, as opposed to. Again, he's a popular enough character, an important enough character that you know you can't really kill him. I wonder if Torunn Gronbekk asked, but that's what I was getting at with where I feel like ended a little bit too. I needed there was more potential for story there that could have been fleshed out more. So anyway, moving on. Up next we have New Titans number 38. This came in last for me at 13. It's from writer Tate Brombal, Sammy Basri, and Bruno Abdias on art, Adriana Lucas on colors, Steve Wands on letters. It just feels a little disjointed to me. You know, we have Static that shows up. He's getting a tour around Titan's Mountain from Superman John Kent. There's something going on with Static's powers. He doesn't seem to have control of them or what have you. This just feels a little bit disjointed. I'm just not really enjoying the characterization of these characters from Tate Brombal. And this isn't necessarily his fault per se, but based on the characterizations that we've had for a lot of these characters in recent time, when I read them here in this New Titans book, it feels like everybody's been de-aged for about 5 years. They seem a little more naive. They seem a little less experienced. They seem just younger. And it's a little bit jarring to me. And so that's part of the reason why this is not working for me. We did it again. I forgot to talk about the variant covers for Catwoman, even though you had them up behind me. I specifically wanted to call out that Frank Cho cover that's behind me. The one in the middle there is by Ji-Hung Lee. And then the other one that you had in the middle was by Chloe Bradford, which is a really cool looking one as well. And then there is a Joelle Jones 40th anniversary Dark Knight Returns. And the main cover is by Sebastian Fumara, which is behind Rocky. I don't know why I can't remember to do the variant covers consistently. But anyway, getting back to New Titans, what do you think of this latest issue, Rocky?
I continue to like the... Tate is really doing his damnedest. I have sympathies for him as well because, but I want to give him. Here's what I appreciate what he's attempting, with mixed success. But he's going big, and I appreciate that. He continues to develop Spoiler, and I love that. She's having arguments with Nightwing. Good. You got to get in Nightwing's face. Nightwing's in her face. Nightwing's having problems over in Bloodhaven. Spoiler herself is rising in the ranks. She's finding her own self, her agency. She's learning to be a better leader. Also, Yara Flor. Wonder Girl is finally she's having visions. Yara Flor is a very underdeveloped character and has not been particularly well developed at all. She's, for all intents and purposes, Yara Flor is a hollow shell of the characters, as far as I'm concerned. And Tate Brombal, to his credit, he's taken her on as well, and he's going to be giving her an adventure. And this issue has Yara sort of have hallucinations of her Brazilian Amazonian homeland. And it ends with one of her Amazonian sisters calling upon her for help, and I like that. Again, there's still stuff going on with Cyborg and Terra, and then of course we got Static coming on board. There's a lot of moving parts here, and I know exactly what you say when you say it. All these characters, they feel younger. They feel like they're. They feel a little bit underdeveloped, and there's not enough real estate for all of them to get attention. But yet it's a team book, and there's only so many pages that Tate Brombal has to work with. So I got to say that I'm getting the gist of it here. Also, I don't know if it was just me, but is that Red Devil? Is that his name, Red Devil?
Yeah, Red Devil.
Was he flirting with Connor? Were they flirting with each other there? I don't know. I don't have a very good gaydar, but it's like, geez, I don't know, like maybe something's going on there. But in any event, so I think that he's definitely planting some seeds for a storyline, and I want to give him credit for that. It's not quite gelling, but this takes time. I mean, this was a big ask. There's all these characters, all these moving parts, and so. We'll see. This was I ranked this at number 11 for me, but I do appreciate what he's doing, and I'm actually really looking forward. I'm looking forward to see what he does with Yara Flor, because there's a prologue called Spirit of the Amazon, because if Yara has been a character that has traditionally been given a voice that I haven't liked, Yara has been, in my view, as unlikable as Trinity's early voice. I don't know what it is. Maybe I'm just a cranky old man yelling at clouds all the time, and I got to lighten up. But I want to like Yara. I'm ready to like Yara Flor, and maybe Tate Brombal's going to be able to make that happen.
That's funny because I'm curious about Yara as well, but I'm not ready to like her. I dislike her as a character. That will be the proof will be in the pudding if Tate can bring me around on Yara. He could flip this whole thing around. Actually, the character I'm most interested in is Red Devil. I feel like he's got the most potential. And Stephanie Brown has a lot of potential as well. Don't get me wrong, but I feel like she's gotten a lot more attention in the past. Red Devil is a little bit more of a clean slate. Yara for different reasons, because it's been tried and failed, as opposed to with Red Devil, nobody's really kind of staked a claim yet. So there is a fantastic regular cover from Torunn Clark, which I just love. That's the one that's behind me. And then the one that's in the middle there is from Lucas Meyer. The one behind Rocky is from Sanford Green. And then there is one other one by Dyke Ruin that has that static one. It has a regular and a foil version, if you're so inclined. Big Static fan, you might want to pick that up in foil. All right. Up next, we've got Batman, Superman, World's Finest, the World's Finest team. This is issue 54. It's written by Mark Waid. We've got Bruno Frenda on art, Luis Guerrero on colors, and Steve Wands on letters. I'm a huge baseball fan. This is a baseball issue where Batman and Superman, along with some other heroes, get sucked into hell to play a baseball game against the denizens of hell. That being said, this didn't make my top 5, as much as I'm a giant baseball fan, but it's sort of because I would have liked more actual baseball scenes, but I'd probably been in the minority, because the story, it is a one and done, which I appreciate, because Rocky and I both talked in the past about what a great job World's Finest does of being accessible and new reader friendly, and hearkening back to a different sort of age of comics when everything wasn't written for the trade, and that's what we get here. So also I'll question, it's not like they really have a manager, but I definitely question the layout of the team. Like, why would you want Batman as your catcher? I think Batman would be at third base and Ted Kord would be home. I'm just thinking,
well, he's calling the pitch. Batman calls the pitches,
Yeah, I suppose. He could still call the pitches from third base, but I don't know. I just, there's sort of, for those that aren't that familiar with baseball or whatever, there's sort of prototypical player types that you want at certain positions, right? Like a first baseman and a third baseman are usually power hitters on your team, right? That hit home runs, and you don't worry as much about their defense or whatever, especially first base. So I almost think like, okay, well, maybe you put Wonder Woman at third base because she's definitely would be a power hitter. And then maybe you put Ted Cord at first. That doesn't really work either. Yeah, I think you got to have Batman at first or third. But anyway, I'm being pedantic here. It is a fun story, but just based on the fact that we didn't get a lot of, like, it would have been great to have it set up a little bit more with actual baseball situations. I know I'm in the minority with that, but that's kind of why. And maybe it's not fair for me to rank it a little bit lower because of that. I put it at number 5, but man, it could have been like what could have been, because I'm just such a giant baseball fan, and I won't mention who my favorite team is because, oh my god, are they awful these days. But anyway, the artwork by Bruno Frendo was fantastic. The color work was great. This was a lot of fun. I love that DC has a book that's so new reader friendly as World's Finest is, and the Dan Mora main cover is gorgeous as well. There's a lot to like here. And again, it did make my top 5, but yeah, what might have been had more substance of baseball in it. But again, I'm probably the minority when it comes to that. What are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, it's funny. I think it was just maybe the mood when I was reading this, but I just there's a very strong silly factor to this. I mean, a baseball game in hell, and then the premise itself didn't really ring, about people in hell saying prayers in hell and it affecting the main world. Like, I didn't quite, I didn't like, it didn't really like ring true for me. But I mean, it's, again, it's a silly story, but it felt like one of those DC in the 70s. And I even have a couple of old issues, if I could find them in one of my boxes, DC Super Sports. This reminds me of one of those stories, DC Super Sports, where there's always some absurd premise why the heroes and villains have to have a baseball game as opposed to just fight each other. No, they got to play, this, and this, that's exactly what this is. But again, it's masterfully done by Mark Waid. He knows exactly how to make these absurd premises have some degree of verisimilitude. And that's exactly what the assignment is that he has given himself for World's Finest. And frankly, the rest of the DC mainstream universe has followed suit. There seems to be more fun. There seems to be a revitalization throughout DC. And, everybody points to the absolute line, but I think that the true origins of the revitalization of the DC universe go right back to the very first issue of Batman Superman World Finest by Mark Waid, because I think that in many ways, he I don't think it's a coincidence that, when Dan Didio left, Mark Waid always said he wouldn't come back to DC for so long as Dan Didio was here. Dan Didio left. Eventually, we finally get Mark Waid back. And I don't think it's a coincidence that within a couple of years, we get this, of Mark Waid coming back. Again, it was baby steps, but we've built a hell of a universe here. And a lot of it has to do with this revitalization of the fun of the Silver Age for a modern era. And this issue is a prime example of that.
Yeah, it's not really fair revisionist history and what have you, but to look back on what Didio had planned and then look at what we actually got. And don't get me wrong, like what we got with Future State was definitely a bastardization. And so, had Didio stayed and had continued to steer the ship, I'm sure what was known as 5G would have been of higher quality than what we got. But I don't think there were too many fans that were clamoring for that, right? Like, that was the whole idea that Luke Fox was going to, or Jace Fox was going to replace Batman, Connor Kent, John Kent was going to replace Superman, Yara Flora was going to replace Wonder Woman. We're going to get a new generation of heroes, whatever. And you look at where we are now, where we did get new versions of all those characters, but obviously an absolute version. And what we're getting in the main universe, and I know that Tom King's run on Wonder Woman has been divisive, however you want to say it. But, certainly Batman is as popular as ever. Superman is maybe selling better than it has in a long time. So it's really easy to look back now and go, oh, thank God that we didn't end up going down the path of 5G, which is interesting, but I don't know that that's necessarily fair. And you do kind of wonder what might have been. And on that note, I don't know if you saw Rocky, but so the first chapter of the 5G era was going to happen for Free Comic Book Day that year. And the other interesting footnote for those there may be longtime listeners and watchers of this DC Spotlight that Rocky and I do every week. The way that we met, the way that Rocky and I met was Rocky was doing a live stream with another one of our friends, Trevor Fernandez Lenkowitz, who's gone from being a content creator to being just a creator of comics in his own right. But they were doing a live show the like right after the news dropped on Trevor's channel that Didio had been fired. And I got the message that morning, and then when I got home from work, I tuned in and I saw, hey, there's these guys that are talking about it, whatever. And so I tuned in, and I was chiming in the chat with things that I knew from creators that had told me or gossip that I had heard or what have you. And that's kind of how we met, and our friendship kind of grew from there, and what have you. So it's kind of interesting. But the first part of what would have been 5G was going to come out Free Comic Book Day of that year, and it was all printed. A million, maybe not a million, but hundreds of thousands of copies of it. It was printed in vast amounts. And then when that happened, it got destroyed. Like they pulped them. DC pulped them all, because they didn't want them to get out there. But there were, as far as we know, at least 5 copies that got out there. 2 of them somehow in the hands of a very popular chain of comic. I think there's like 6 or 8 locations in Florida called Coliseum of Comics. I've been to several of them. It's a great chain, a great store. I recommend it if you're in Florida. But they had a couple of copies that they put up for sale recently, and they were slabbed copies. I think they were both 9.6s if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, they sold for quite the pretty penny.
Wow.
And it was the first part of those stories that did get repurposed for future state in a lot of ways, but there are things that were changed as well. But it's just interesting to look back now, especially with the runaway success of Absolute Universe, to go, DC should probably, thank their lucky stars that they didn't go down the path of 5G, because going down that path that road does not lead to Absolute. It just doesn't. No. It just doesn't. But I mean, I don't know. I was interested enough in it, and we did have we had a mini series from Dan Jurgens and with various artists that played with some of it as well, which seemed to have some potential as well. But if you look at from the time Dan Didio left to where we are with DC now, there were some dark times, right? Future State obviously being the one that really stands out. But you look at Death Metal, you look at Infinite Frontier, it was like fits and starts. It wasn't a smooth ride. There were good, there was some good stuff in there. Don't get me wrong. Mm-hmm. And then really when I feel like DC really got going on the road to Absolute was their All-In initiative. Like they had a plan, they stuck with it, and it's not dissimilar from what they did with New 52. And I've talked about this before. The fact that they were building the Absolute Universe like over 2 years ahead of time, so they could plan it out really well, which is what they did with the New 52, right? Like those first 2 or 3 issues were planned out years in advance, and so it really gave a lot of runway. And then when New 52 fell apart was when now they used up all the backlog and they ran out. They no longer could have the real forward thinking. Yeah, and that's when the continuity started getting really wonky and things stopped making sense. Luckily, with Scott Snyder and Joshua Williamson and what they're doing with Absolute, they're still continuing to build things far, far in the future. There's a lot more forethought now, and so that's why I think, Absolute has vastly surpassed New 52 in terms of being on the rails and still selling really well and whatever. But it's no coincidence that I've talked about it before recently. The only 2 quarters, prior to DC giving Marvel its lunch in sales and in revenue and unit sales since the 60s is recently with Absolute stuff. The only other 2 times it happened DC didn't beat Marvel in revenue, but for 2 consecutive quarters, Q4 of 2011 and Q1 of 2012, DC sold more units than Marvel. They didn't make more money, they didn't have more revenue, but they sold more comics than Marvel did, and that was based on the strength of the New 52. So, anyway, history lesson you guys probably weren't that interested in, but this is our show. It's our heel. It's our beans, and I'll talk about what I want to. God damn it. Anyway, up next we have Absolute Flash number 18. Now You See Me, which is a very underrated movie, by the way. Jeff Lemire is the writer. Nick Robles on art and cover. Adriana Lucas on the colors, and then Tom Napolitano on letters.
I apologize. My mouse has just died, and I can't. It's charging. It needs to be charged. I just a minute here. It's at 1%. Okay, just a minute.
Okay, we'll give it a sec. Well,
okay.
On that
no,
note,
it's okay. I can. Yeah.
Well, hold on. I got to talk about these variant covers real quick. Anyway. You just switched
okay.
it.
Yeah. Go ahead. Talk about the variant covers.
Yeah. So. Yeah, Dan Moore, I mentioned, really fantastic cover. That's the one behind Rocky. Then we've got Miguel Mercado on the one behind me, and then the middle one is Adrian Gutierrez. And there is also a Bill Sienkiewicz Dark Knight Returns 40th anniversary variant as well. But anyway, getting back to Absolute Flash, it's almost like you could look at the first 12 issues of Absolute Flash as almost a completely different series. The feel and the tone of the first 12 issues of Absolute Flash feels so different from the last 6 issues that we've had now. I talked about it many times where it felt like more of an ensemble book, and Wally West was just one of various characters that we were learning about and invested in. And a lot of that might have just been because of the Rogues and, it being a larger cast of characters and what have you. And the Rogues are definitely, popular characters. And so it very well may have been that that Lemire wanted to establish them. But I feel like since issue 13, it's really been more focused on Wally, and I appreciate that. This is the first issue where Wally refers to himself as the Flash. It's also the first issue where we see this absolute version of Hunter Zolomon, which is the character in the yellow there. We also have a final page reveal of the Old Man, and that's what they refer to the absolute version of Abracadabra as. And he is a bad man. We also have Director Bones showing up here. Veronica, is it Veronica? No, it's Eleanor Thawne showing up here as well. So yeah, we're speculator alert. There's quite a few first appearances in this one. We also there's a scene at the beginning of the issue with Wally talking to Linda on the roof of the shelter that they kind of stay in. That's run by the Dibneys, Ralph and Sue Dibney. Ralph, of course, in the main universe being Elongated Man. And through the machinations of Abracadabra, who can somehow turn people into monsters or whatever, it's reminiscent of the recent Plastic Man series from Christopher Cantwell, where all of a sudden Ralph his hand, you can see it in the bottom panel there, his hand just starts to droop like he's going to be Elongated Man. So there's every possibility that based on what Abracadabra does to Ralph, that he's going to gain the powers of Elongated Man. So that's interesting as well. And another reason maybe to pick this up if you're a big Elongated Man fan and you want his, first time his powers manifest, even if it's not in a good way. So there's a lot to like in this. Yes, it's a little bit of setup for what's coming next, which I guess what's coming next is a big fight between Wally and Abracadabra and Hunter Zolomon, because this version of Hunter Zolomon, he doesn't necessarily have super speed, which in the main universe, if you're not familiar with Hunter Zolomon, he's Zoom, Professor Zoom, who looks much like Reverse Flash, so who is Eobard Thawne. So I get where the confusion comes in, believe me. But this version, he doesn't necessarily have super speed, but he does have the ability to transport himself a minute back into his past or a minute forward into his future, which is basically almost better than super speed, because he can move even faster in a lot of ways. You know, he can be somewhere that he needs to be, a minute faster than you can get there. So interesting power levels, interesting character. Seems like he's not out and out evil the way a lot of these villains in the Absolute Universe are, like Jack Grimm or Hector Hammond or what have you. But he does feel sort of trapped by the machinations of Eleonora and Director Bones, for that matter. So I really enjoy this issue. I love that it's more focused on Wally now, along with Linda, which, that's fine. I appreciate that. And yeah, I don't regret the way that Lemire laid out the first 12 issues, but at the same time, I feel like if it were flipped in terms of, and again, I'm playing script doctor, but if it were flipped in terms of maybe choosing to focus more on Wally for like the first 6 issues or first 12 issues, and then have the Rogues be part of the, either like 7 through, which I guess would be what, like 12 issues, 7 through 19 or 7 through 20, or even 13 through 24. But yeah, hindsight's 2020 or what have you. So I'm really enjoying this. I'm glad, not that I would have dropped it, because Absolute Universe and speculators and all that stuff and sort of the popularity of it. I know there's value in these books, so I'm picking up the hard copies. But it's also an interesting place to be when you think, man, I wasn't necessarily in danger of dropping it, but I also wasn't like super happy that I was picking up the physical copies, you know what I mean? Because it felt like the other Absolute titles, especially the Trinity, were so far ahead of this in terms of quality. And no pun intended here, but Flash has done an incredible job of catching up. So,
yeah.
What are your thoughts on this latest issue, Rocky?
Yeah, I feel this issue reminds me of those Absolute Wonder Woman issues where Absolute Wonder Woman sort of is taking on all the rogues at once. It just felt awesome, where she basically meets Zatanna and Zatara for the first time, and I really love this issue. This is one of the better issues, and it just feels like so much is happening. And we had Absolute Hunter Solomon, Absolute the Director Bones, but Eleanor Thawne returns, and I love the fact that Eleanor Thawne she really truly genuinely believes that she's a good guy. She even says we're the good guys, and of course she is a member of the Absolute Justice League. But I just love the central conceit of this Absolute universe. All these ridiculous villains fancy themselves heroes, and even this Abracadabra. I'm not even sure, if this is all misdirection. Ralph Digby sort of now he looks like this is the formative event that turns him into Elongated Man. Well, I'm thinking, maybe, but is it all an illusion? Isn't magic temporary? Or does Abracadabra have more than magical powers? Does he have science-based powers as well? We don't really know. We'll have to wait and see, because one thing we know about Eleanor Thawne is that I get similar vibes. Eleanor Thawne is more of a scientist than Veronica Cale, but Veronica Cale likes to experiment on people, but so kind of sort of is Eleanor Thawne, and they are kind of like colleagues on the Absolute Justice League, so you got to wonder if they talk behind the scenes. But in any event, I just really like how this is all coming together, and I like the fact that Wally West is coming into his own as well. He really seems to be stepping up to the plate. I love the fact that Hunter Solomon, his power set, I gotta say, I think Flash can easily defeat Hunter Solomon, because if all Hunter Solomon can do is go into the past a minute or in the future a minute, all Wally West has to do is go at super speed and hit him in the face at 12 different locations within, literally like 5 or 6 feet, to cover every single space around him, and stay there for and keep doing that for a minute, and then stop. And then no matter where he goes a minute into the future, I think there's got to be a way that Wally West is going to figure it out somehow. And even if what I said doesn't make a lot of sense, I'm going to keep thinking about it. And because I'm really curious to see how Jeff Lemire is going to get Wally out of this one, because there's got to be a way to defeat Hunter Solomon there, because there must be something about the Speed Force or accesses or aspects of this absolute speed force that Wally is going to have to access to defeat Hunter Solomon, because it can't be that simple. You ought not to be able to defeat the absolute Flash that easily, but we shall see. But in any event, the plot thickens. We get more players coming on board. Eleanor Thawne isn't done with Wally West. She wants him removed off the playing field. We still got the Rogues out there somewhere. This is good stuff. This is really good stuff. And Jeff Lemire, I feel like he's raising his A game. And I like to think it's because he's finally stopped writing JSA. But in any event, I'm glad this comic's getting better and better.
Yeah, he can focus more on this. Well, the main cover is by Nick Robles. The one there in the middle is by Ejikure, Ejikure. And then the one behind me is Giuseppe Camuncoli, and the one there is by Carmine di Giandomenico, the aforementioned. So, all right, up next we have Batwoman number 6. This is from writer Greg Rucka. Jeff Spokes handles the art in this particular issue with Hassan Otsman Elhau on letters. As is usually the case for Jeff Spokes, he's handling his own color work. And oh my God, what a different feel this book has.
No kidding.
Because of the Jeff Spokes art. Like, I wish Spokes was on this, as the regular artist. But it comes in at number 10 for me. It just has such a different feel and a different tone with the Jeff Spokes art. It feels both more sort of intimate in a way, but also more cinematic, which is a really interesting balance that Spokes manages to achieve in his artwork many, many times. Also, the color work that he does gives it such a great tone and feel, really setting the mood. So, yeah, I mean, this is, even though it's not the highest ranked that I've ever had an issue of this Catwoman run, it's probably my favorite issue of the run. I think the Jeff Spokes art is fantastic. So, anything to add, Rocky?
Yeah, I love this issue, but I admit I'm not sure if this is going to sound so weird, but I'm not sure if I'm confused with this issue or if I'm not. Maybe I'm not confused, and maybe I did get it, but I'm not sure if this entire issue was a flashback that took place before issue 1, because this issue ends with Batwoman asking the psychiatrist to take care of Beth, but she, because at the beginning, I'm not sure if this continues from last issue, but because I was a little confused because they're falling off a cliff, and then Batwoman goes to her father's place, and then her sister Alice goes to, I guess, her place, but I guess it's really Batwoman's place. I was, and then they all kind of met up. One goes to the father, and then Alice goes to her apartment, and then still thinks she's Batwoman again, and then it sort of wraps up where Batwoman asks the psychiatrist to take care of Beth, and they're both her and Beth are going to continue to go to the same psychiatrist. Is kind of how I get it at the end, and the psychiatrist is going to counsel both her and her sister.
Yeah, you got it.
Yeah, okay.
So everything but the last 2 pages takes place before issue 1. The last 2 pages take place after Kate has gone and rescued Beth.
Oh, okay. My feeling, like I put this dead last because it felt. We shouldn't necessarily have needed an issue like this, although I'm glad we got it. But I almost felt compelled that we needed an issue like this to really, really hammer down and clarify what WTF happened in those first 5 issues, which I inferred it. We figured it out. It was there. But, even the way it ends here, it seems really kind of silly. Really, moving forward, both Batwoman and her sister are going to be seeing the same psychiatrist. I don't know. I've lost. I love Greg Rucka as a writer, but I got to say that these first 6 issues have been, and I love Greg Rucka as a writer. I've read 2 of his novels. He's a great writer, but this 6 issues was I've been disappointed. I was disappointed with this. I was really hoping that this was going to fire on more cylinders. It ends on a high note here. Jeff Spoke's art really made this final issue, and I'm pleased to hear that I figured it. I did figure it out. Thank you for not scolding me and telling me I'm a moron. But
Well,
no,
this is what I'll say about this, right? Like, and when this was announced at New York Comic Con, I was in the room and Rucka was talking about it, and he really was talking about it as a continuation of the original story that he wanted to tell, and being able to go back and pick up those threads and tie them off. So I will say that if you read the original Detective Comics run that Rucka wrote starring Batwoman, and then you immediately go from his final issue of that to this, it'll probably make a lot more sense, because it's almost like you have to forget that everything that that happened in between. And I don't disagree with you, Rocky, that in a way that's a failure. Like, you can't do that, because we've had multiple Batwoman series since then, and she's was a part of James Tynan's long run in Detective Comics or whatever. So many things have happened in the meantime. But Rucka's Rucka, and he wants to set that aside. I mean, this is a character that this version of the character is a character that he created, and he wants to finish telling the story that he intended on telling. So I don't begrudge him that. It's just the timing of it that makes it wonky and confusing. So, I don't know that there's necessarily a clean way to do it, other than, I mean, the thing that's happened in most recent publishing history of DC that reminds me of this is when DC kicked Tom King off of Batman, even though they had previously committed to giving him 100 issues, and they wanted to allow him to finish telling the story he wanted to tell, but he decided to do it with Clay Mann, and Clay's not the fastest illustrator in the world, and so it was like, okay, they gave him this 12-issue Bat Cat series. Even then, it's not 100 issues, right? Like, that would only come up to 97, but some of them were oversized or whatever, so maybe he got the same number of pages, Tom King, that is, if he would have gone to 100 issues or whatever. But that was the sort of the ending of the story, as close as they could allow, DC would allow the story, because especially after all the vitriol with the marriage not happening, the Bat-Cat marriage in 50, Tom King's run in 100, and he's gone on record of saying this any number of times, in his 100th Batman issue, they would have been married. They would have gotten married. And it would have been like a full circle moment after all the death threats or whatever. But yeah, he got kicked off, and it is what it is. But they did give him that Bat-Cat 12-issue maxi series in order to kind of tie up the loose ends. So this is kind of similar to that, but that was a lot more clear that was out of continuity, and was like, okay, finish Tom's last issue of Batman and then go and read that, which again, things were changed, and they were already married, and that had if you recall, Rocky, it was kind of confusing as well, because there were 3 different timelines in that Bat-Cat story.
Yeah,
it wasn't always clear which timeline you were reading or whatever. It was kind of messy, and so the fact that this is not as clear, it hasn't been made as clear from DC editorial that yes, this is like, forget all the Batwoman, Kate Kane stuff that's happened in between, and just go back and finish reading Rucka's run. But you also can't, because it's been too long since I've read that run. At the end of that run, weren't Kate and Renee Montoya still together, or had they just recently broke up? Do you remember?
Yeah, because I can't remember.
Based on this, they were, because when Renee shows up in previous issues of this arc of Batwoman, it definitely seems like they've been broken up for a while.
Well, and they got together on the Justice League series, Challengers of the Unknown, right? They sort of had a thing on there.
So again, it's a little messy just based on the timing, and I think that hurts this story that Rucka wants to tell. That's my point. Yeah. My long-winded point, which I often have long-winded points. That's why you guys love me.
Absolutely.
So, anything else you want to say on this?
No. It's other than the fact I did put it sort of dead last for me, because I mean, as while this might have been the best issue with the best art, it just has it's been a disappointment for me overall.
I got you. I don't disagree. I don't think that's a terrible take. I considered putting it that low as well. One thing that is interesting, in our press previews for all these covers, it has Danny listed as the interior artist, even though it's just Spokes. So hopefully they didn't print these, because Hopefully they give Spokes his cover credit. But anyway, the Jorge Fornes cover in the middle there is gorgeous, beautiful. Danny's illustrating the one on the left behind Rocky, and then the other one, Stefan Sejic, is behind me, and then the one that's in the middle there is by Jeff Spokes. Yeah,
and then there's
also there's a Dark Knight Returns 40th anniversary variant that's by Walt Simonson actually. So. Okay, moving on. Up next, we've got Absolute Green Arrow number 4. Man, this book continues to be fantastic. Love what Pornsak, Pichetshote, and company are doing here. I'm every time I read one of these issues of Absolute Green Arrow, I'm once again overjoyed that DC extended this to another 6 issues for a total of 12.
Well, for sure.
And I hope they make it an ongoing. I really do. And it might be a case where just based on the way it ends after 12 issues, it can't be an ongoing. I mean, for all we know, that whoever Absolute Green Arrow turns out to be won't make sense for it to be ongoing or whatever. So, but could we get an Absolute Black Canary ongoing then? Like, whatever happens, I need an ongoing in the Absolute universe from Pornsak. I just need that. And if Rafael Albuquerque is the artist, so be it. If he's not and he's working with somebody else, as long as it's a quality artist, I'm fine with that. But this is one of the issues. There's a few of them this week. And I don't know why this happens, but there's no credits page in this one. But again, we do know it's written by Pornsak Pichetshote. We know that Rafael Albuquerque is handling the line art, and Marcel Mayalo is handling the colors. I apologize, I don't know who the letterer is. But this is a great issue. I especially love the flashback and getting more context on kind of the beliefs and values of the absolute version of Oliver Queen. We get to see Hector Hammond here. We get to see and kind of his depravity, which I like that juxtaposition. I like that contrast between who Hector Hammond is as a billionaire and his values and his beliefs versus how that contrasts against the billionaire Oliver Queen and what he values and what he believes. So that's great. Solomon Grundy, the absolute Solomon Grundy is terrifying and very formidable. And definitely some foreshadowing of some superpowers manifesting for Absolute Black Canary, if not next issue, very, very soon. So this is fantastic. I expect it to probably be the best-selling book of the week. And if not, I'm not sure what would be. Because this is going to definitely be the top-selling DC book of the week. Whether or not something else might surpass it from another publisher, I mean, maybe, but I kind of doubt it. I think this will be number 1. So anyway, what are your thoughts on Absolute Green Arrow number 4?
I'm cheering for Absolute Black Canary. I think she's awesome. I'm more interested in her as a character than I am with Absolute Green Arrow, although I am fascinated as to who this Absolute Green Arrow is. It appears that it can't be Oliver Queen, because apparently Oliver Queen's body, after Oliver Queen was killed, they did try to resurrect him, apparently with this version of the Miracle drug, but it's suggested by Hector Hammond that he eventually they scrapped him and they went to reclaim his body. And now Hector Hammond could be an unreliable narrator. Hector Hammond also said that Oliver Queen was an a-hole and that he was just like him and that he's just like, but yet that differs from Diana Lance. Her experience with Oliver was that he was a nicer person, that he had principles. And in a lot of the flashbacks, Oliver Queen does seem like a nice guy. But so we obviously, if we got a bad guy like Hector Hammond and other characters that we know are villains, saying that Oliver Queen was a villain too, and because Oliver Queen was associated with a potential pedophile who's a business partner, et cetera, there is still part of me as the reader. I'm thinking, well, is Oliver Queen, was he 100, what were the flaws of Oliver Queen? We're not really sure. But in the end, it doesn't really matter. Oliver Queen's no longer with us. Now we're left with Absolute Black Canary. We're left with this all these people that have been experimented upon. There's quite a horrific scene where a particular person had hands sort of like, made into a spider, and it was just, I mean, basically this character, this what's his name, Edvin Zittel, and it is a lot of sick stuff. A lot of sick stuff. Human experimentation, and again, we talked about the Absolute Justice League, which are like the so-called heroes of the Absolute Universe, which are really the villains. What do Veronica Cale and Veronica Cale, Miss Thawne, Jack Grimm, all these villains, Hector Hammond, all of them are really sick, and they're all into experimenting. They're all into about getting more power and about perfecting the human condition to be able to control it and manipulate it for their own machinations. And you can really see, and this is the wonderful reward if you read all and collect all the Absolute titles. You really see the bigger picture here. That is there evil in the Absolute Universe? Absolutely. And you can see just how there's almost a unifying element of sickness and depravity to the evil that exists here. Everything from the Brainiac to the Jack Grimm to the Eleanor Thawne to the Hector Hammond, and it plays out so well here in Absolute Green Arrow. And who the hell's Absolute Green Arrow? We don't know. We do know that he loses his hand at the end, which is interesting. So if he does have some shit, maybe this new Absolute Green Arrow, maybe he's got some superpower, he can regenerate. It's interesting. I had never heard. I'm gonna ask you a question. You said that you think Absolute Black Canary is gonna get some superpowers. On what basis do you think that is?
Well, she's having those headaches.
Oh.
She's having those terrible headaches, and I just think at some point she's just gonna yell at, scream out in pain or whatever, and
have the sonic cry. That's where the sonic cry is going to come from.
Yeah, I think she's, and I don't know, maybe she's been exposed to something that's given her.
Yeah,
I mean, we know she's had the debilitating headaches for a long time. It seems like foreshadowing.
Yeah, well, it seems like you say, when you say that, and especially since she's fought this sort of like 10-eyed or multiple-eyed Solomon Grundy creature. I mean, maybe when he bites her, maybe when she's amongst all the bodies, she's going to get infected or something, and maybe she's already been infected and we don't know. Because Hector Hammond did hire her and forcibly hire her and blackmail her to basically work for him. So she might literally be an experiment, like you say, and she's not even aware of it. But in any event, I mean, this is just the fact that you and I are even, talking like this is awesome, because that just goes to show how well this is written, and it's just so well done. And just easily in my top 3 this week.
Yeah, not to mention the artwork on that scene where she's having the headache, like the background gives some foreshadowing of the sonic scream, because usually her scream's depicted as like concentric circles that are coming out. So if you get, it's the bottom panel on the page, her eyes kind of this blue color, and if you look to the left of the panel,
I'm looking to it.
Yeah, keep going.
Oh yeah,
it's more right there. Yeah. See how there's like the rings.
Yeah.
To the left.
So that's right.
That's what makes me. Yeah, that's what makes me think she's about to. And as far as Edvin, if Edvin Zittel hadn't been killed in the second issue by Absolute Green Arrow, he would be my number 1 pick to be Absolute Green Arrow, just based on the way that he talks about, like his conversation with Oliver Queen here. Mm-hmm. Like, even though he's a billionaire and whatever, and that apparently was the reason, but it's not like there's an Edvin Zittel in the main universe. But that name Zittel, when it comes to Green Arrow, for those not aware, Werner Zittel is Count Vertigo, who's maybe the second most well-known antagonist for Green Arrow after Merlin. So, and we've already had Malcolm Merlin show up here. So, is Absolute Green Arrow Werner Zittel? I don't know. Like again, like, and that's just a guess only because it just seems like, and it's not one of the people that's been named. And it did. Am I remembering right that Pornsak did say that it was one of the actually suspected people, or maybe not? Maybe I'm misremembering that. But I say all that to say I don't have any damn clue who it is. I'm just guessing and speculating. But that's what I love about this book, right? Like I'm speculating on Dinah Lance having powers. I'm speculating still on who Absolute Green Arrow might be. Like I love it. I love it, and I know Pornsak is loving it as well. That he's keeping people guessing. So yeah, such a great book. All right, up next we have Nightwing number 131, The Courthouse. I really have to once again call out the art in this book from Dennis Cowan, whose work looks so different when he's being inked by Norm Rapman. It has a cleaner feel, but still has that textured sort of urban street feel that Dennis's art is known for. So that's the perfect art team to suit the story that Dan Waters is telling. Francesco Segala on colors, Wes Abbott on letters. I'm really, really enjoying this story. That being said, this particular issue did not make my top 5. It came in at number 7. Only because there wasn't like a ton of action, but I love the bigger narrative that Dan Waters has built. You know, we kind of wondered out loud how this would feel with Dan Waters, whose work in the comics is self-described as weird and strange. You know, he's written a lot of supernatural stuff, and Nightwing is a pretty straightforward hero. But the supernatural, weird, mysterious elements that he's added to Bloodhaven really work in so many ways. So I do enjoy it, even though it came in at number 7 for me. So what are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, it was okay. I thought it came in, I ranked it, it came in at number 7 for me as well, largely on the strength of the art. It's interesting that, you know, Nightwing was supposed to turn himself in, and just when you think he's going to turn himself in and he's almost inclined to, somebody else, the witch who Nightwing has blamed it's a witch that caused this big accident that occurred on the bridge. Nightwing's blaming the witch. No one believes Nightwing's story that it's the witch that caused it. They're blaming Nightwing. And so Nightwing's supposed to turn himself in to face charges. And but it looks like the witch manipulated a guy to have his sister turn herself in, claiming to be the witch. Why exactly? I don't know. What's the overall agenda here of this witch? This witch wants to take revenge on all the men flowing from some event that happened, you know, like hundreds of, maybe a couple hundred years ago. So it's there's definitely some supernatural elements here with taking which. There's supernatural elements originating in the past that are having some consequence in present day Bloodhaven, and you couldn't get a better artist to convey that, because this is a very, very different Nightwing than Tom Taylor's Nightwing. Very different, but it's also very good. I like this. It's always an enjoyable read, and this is the Nightwing that Nightwing is being put through the ringer here, and he's being held accountable for a lot of the things that he says. It's very, very grounded, and this is a very street level sort of story, and it's perfect for Dennis Cowan because it's right up there. If you loved his classic work on The Question with Denny O'Neil, this is right up your alley. So it's good stuff.
Yeah. There's some fantastic variant covers too. The one behind me, I especially want to call out, by Tim Bradstreet, which is fantastic. That other one in the middle right there is Dustin Nguyen, which is great. And then this might be my favorite of all I'm not a big fan of The Dark Knight Returns. I'm not a big fan of Frank Miller in general, but this is a Dan Mora 40th anniversary cover, and this might be my favorite image of the Dark Knight Returns Batman and the Karen Kelly Robin, or Carrie Kelly. I think I said Karen. It's Carrie Kelly. This might be my favorite version of those characters that I've ever seen. My favorite illustration of those characters I've ever seen. Just gorgeous work from Dan Mora.
Yeah.
All right, last book we're going to talk about in detail. I don't really have a whole heck of a lot to say about.
Second last, I think. Don't we have?
Oh yeah, second last. You're right. Yeah, we still have Superman Unlimited. But yeah, it's Wonder Woman 36 from Stephanie Williams, who's the writer. Clayton Henry on art, Pedro Estocco on colors, and then Clayton Cal on letters. First of all, I love Clayton Henry's art. The guy just continues to get better and better. I don't know why he doesn't get more credit for how talented he is. He is fantastic. And the story's fine. There's nothing inherently wrong with it. It's just continuing the retelling of Wonder Woman's origin from Stephanie Williams. And the voice and the tone and the pacing with which Stephanie tells this story gives me every confidence that when the book is handed off from Tom King to her, that she'll do a great job. I feel like she's evolved beyond the storyteller that she was when she did her work on Nubia, which was probably her highest volume of work in kind of the Wonder Woman corner of the DCU. But there's not really anything new here to sink my teeth into, other than the fact that this is Steve Trevor telling the origin of the woman that he loves to his daughter, who was not conceived in the traditional way, but is still equal parts Steve and Diana. So, there is that added emotional resonance to the story, but just based on the fact that this is not really anything new, it's why it's ranked a little bit lower for me.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
did I say what my ranking was? It's number 8. If I didn't, I'll say it again.
Yeah, it's funny. I put it in at number 8 for me as well. I think we're probably so similar in our ranks, which is kind of hilarious. And I should tell people that our buddy Steve also gives us his rankings before, and Steve's rankings are very similar to mine, and probably pretty surprising.
He sends them in on Sundays, and I don't look at those until, because I usually do my rankings like right before we get ready to record.
Yeah.
Because I like to sit with the books for a while and think about them. And once I put my rankings in, then I go and look at Steve's, because I don't want his to influence mine.
Yeah. Well, I actually don't, because the stories, like I say, they sit with us because we generally read them. This week was a little different, but most of the time I read them in advance, and I can usually read them at least twice to have them sink in. But in any event, I got nothing to say here. I got nothing in this story offended me. Nothing. I got nothing to rant about, and I can rave about the art. The art's really good. Clayton Henry's great art, and Stephanie Williams does a good job retelling the origin of Wonder Woman. That's what this is. I can maybe rant a little bit about the editorial idea of just I don't think we needed another retelling of Wonder Woman's origin for over 2 issues. I think that, I would have preferred something maybe different. I would rather have, I guess Stephanie Williams might be the next writer on Wonder Woman. Who knows? I would have maybe that's why she wants to tell her origin. Maybe there's some little extra tweak of the origin. I didn't really see anything significantly different about this origin. It seems like she's just sort of fitting into the existing DC world, the existing DC pantheon. It's not inconsistent with what Mark Waid did in the history of the DC universe. Nothing outwardly different. But maybe there's some clues here that'll come back if Stephanie Williams is already pre-writing her Wonder Woman run, which is maybe the rumor, I guess. Maybe some of these plot points, if the minor ones, will pay dividends if there's some nuance here in this origin. I haven't really paid much attention to, but no, I thought it was pretty decent, and came in at number 8.
What DC book would you want to see Clayton Henry on? As not that he necessarily aspires to be on the monthly grind, because he did that run of Action Comics with Mark Waid. That was the Phantom Zone storyline, and then he did the Justice League Red, which was a miniseries, and then now he's on this. But is there a property, is there a DC character or what have you that you would like to see him on?
I don't know. Like he's not my favorite artist, but I will say that he's better than the current artist on Catwoman. I mean, okay. Although, I actually
remember
Clayton
how
Henry.
Sexy he drew. Remember how sexy he drew Power Girl?
I know that. And I just want to say the way that there's, I find I'm a little disappointed with it. Like, again, this is me, Purian fanboy. Here I am complaining about Wonder Woman's breast size here. I wish Wonder Woman was a little bit more sexier. These warrior women are more sexy in this issue here. But that's just me. But yeah, I thought he drew a fantastic Power Girl, and you know, when he can ramp up to sexy when he wants. I know he does, and he had a lot of fun drawing Power Girl. I could tell. And so yeah, put him on Catwoman. What the hell?
Okay, first of all, let me say I love Clayton Henry's art. And he's a fantastic guy. Like, if you ever get a chance to meet at a convention, I highly recommend. He's just a great guy.
Yeah.
I don't think his art style would fit anything in the Absolute Universe. So I wouldn't want to see him. It's just too clean. His art style is just too clean. I wouldn't want to see him do anything over there. Mm-hmm. Also, I love the aesthetic that Hayden Sherman is giving Legion of Superheroes. You know, we've got the first issue in our press portal, and we've had a chance to read it or whatever. But if Hayden couldn't do Legion of Superheroes, or when Hayden needs a break or Hayden needs a fill-in, I really would love to see Clayton Henry on Legion of Superheroes. And he's probably if he heard me say that, he'd probably be like, God damn it, Jason, I don't want to draw all those characters. That's so many characters. It's so much work. But I think his aesthetic, it's kind of like that. He can bring some grit and he can bring some emotion when he needs to, but it's also that clean style that sort of suits, what we have in our heads as the idea of the future, where everything is sort of clean and nice and neat and that sort of thing. So yeah, if it wasn't Hayden, I'd want Clayton to be doing Legion of Superheroes, and he'd probably be like, hell no. But the thing about Hayden that's so ridiculous to me is how fast he is. The fact that, it was the first question I asked him. If you guys got a chance to listen to my interview, which a lot of you checked it out, it's one of my highest viewed videos in the last few years. My interview with Joshua Williamson and Hayden. But yeah, it was one of the first things I asked him. I was like, are you leaving Absolute Wonder Woman? He's like, no way. So he's drawing 2 monthly books. He's drawing Absolute Wonder Woman, and he's going to take breaks from time to time, just like he has been. But he's also going to be drawing Legion of Superheroes. Like, that's crazy. That just doesn't happen these days. I guess, unless you're Dan Mora, because he's the other one that does fantastic. He's so fast and does fantastic work. Anyway, when it comes to variant covers for Wonder Woman, let me get them in front of me. Sorry, everybody. So yeah, the one there in the middle, David Nakayama, probably could have guessed that. Carlo Pugulian on the one that's behind me. The one in the center there is by ACO, ACO, and then the main cover by Jeffrey Spokes.
The ACO is my favorite. ACO is so awesome. They're all awesome, but ACO
they're
is
all great. Yeah.
Ooh, wow. Tie me up, Wonder Woman. Ooh.
I don't know. I don't remember which one I ordered. I don't have any idea which one I ordered, but I may have to look it up, because I may have to pick up the ACO or the Carlo Pugulian. I have a lot of David Nakayama covers, so I probably can skip that one. But I might have ordered the Pugulian one, because a lot of times when I'm ordering these, it's sight unseen, right? Like, the artist is announced, but I don't know which one it is or what it's going to look like. So yeah, I may have to pick up another cover for that one. Anyway, now on to the last book we're going to talk about. Superman Unlimited is another one of those books this week that doesn't have the credits inside it for whatever reason. Now, we know it's written by Dan Slott. We know the art is by Rachel Stott, and we know the colors are by Giuliano Peratelli, but I have no idea who did the lettering. And I don't necessarily have a lot to say about this issue. It's moving along the Kingdom of Zod storyline very, very well. There's a lot of action, and I definitely did enjoy it. But this came in for me at number 6, so it just missed my top 5. But it's great to see Superman back. It's great to see the meeting of the current Mark Waid version of Superboy with Supergirl. My screens just went out. Did I lose you, Rocky?
Nope, you didn't lose me. Nope.
Okay, great. I don't know what the heck that was. Lost all my screens, but yeah, now they're back. Okay.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, I did enjoy the story. There's plenty of action. It's moving along, but nothing I feel like so far we're 3 parts in. This is part 3 of the Kingdom of Zod storyline. It hasn't had a huge moment yet, and so when I'm reading these, I feel like I'm waiting for that big moment. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah. Have you? Well, okay.
I haven't read any more. Yeah, I haven't read any.
It's next one, part 4.
Yeah. Part 4. Okay.
And no spoilers.
No, the only thing,
This is part 3. Part 4, huge moment. Part 4.
Okay.
Man,
All
epic.
Right. I may have to go read that right after we're done.
Oh yeah.
But the only
it's
thing I've read.
epic.
The only thing I've been so busy. I haven't not had time to read very far ahead. The only thing I've read for DC Beyond this week is Legion Superheroes 1. That's the only thing that I've read. So.
Yeah.
Anyway, give us your thoughts on this.
Well, look, Jason, for those listening, Jason and I have talked about. We reviewed Neil before Zod, and I certainly had mixed feelings about what happened, the characterization of what Joe Casey did with Zod, and he sort of lost a lot of his importance. He lost his wife. Ursa was killed. He sort of lost the relationship with his son, and then he ends up being this lone maniac on this prison ship, which we are now told he basically on that ship he then lost his powers, and those powers of course went to Lois Lane. That's how Lois Lane became Superwoman, and we predicted that. I predicted that. More than one people predicted that, but I think I'm going to say, yeah, it puts a smile on my face. I don't always get these things right. And it was good to see. And here we have, this is sort of Zod returning to form. And a lot of questions here about it. What exactly, Zod did all this on purpose. He pushed the kryptonite meteor toward Earth. All this was El Cordero, this king of this kryptonite country. Zod was always behind the scenes moving the wheels. He's all these machinations, they're all Zod. And of course, now his master plan is that apparently he's using kryptonite to not only be deadly, it's not only potentially deadly to Kryptonians, well, it is deadly to Kryptonians, but also Earthlings as well. And he's right in the middle of this battle. We have this Eradicatrix show up. She's working for Zod. And who is this Eradicatrix? A little bit of a misdirection there. You find out more. This is part 3. Part 4 is epic, guys. I got to tell you. I know she's not Ursula. I won't say that. But lots of battles. There's so many moving parts in this issue. This issue, I can tell you, it's pretty much set up. This issue, if you've been I actually put this issue, I ranked this number 9. This ranked low for me because I read this issue and then I read part 4. This is really, you can't compare the two. Part 4 is just epic. This one is sort of like setup. It's setting the pieces in play for what's going to happen. Guys, trust me on this. You want to pick this up. You want to read Kingdom of Zod. This is pretty good. It's going to be so interesting for Jason and I. Tune in next week, Jason and I. I'm sure we'll have some interesting discussion on the next chapter of this. But this is pretty damn good. And this one here, this issue is just more everyone's trying to take down Zod. Everyone's trying to stop him. Superman shows up and ends up wearing a battle suit. Zod ends up wearing a battle suit, and they end up doing battle. And that's really how it ends. It ends with Zod and Superman continuing to battle this issue. So this is literally like we're just getting a snapshot of a huge action scene that it's not even over by the time you get to this issue. So for that reason, you can't really say anything super starts and was resolved this issue, but it's just, and that's because the action is just so intense. And I'm having a lot of fun with this issue. And I want to give a quick comment. Some people online are making the observation that, goddamn, Superman finally returns from the DC KO event only to get tied up in a 9-issue event like Kingdom of Zod. This has been disappointing to some people, and maybe I've only read to part 4 of this, and all I got to say is I'm hopeful that this is going to have a payoff. I really do. I'm really hopeful. But we'll see. We'll see. Maybe I'll end up not liking this series at the end. But so far, I enjoy the adrenaline rush of this, and I hope I hope people out there are giving this a chance. Because a lot of people, they like DCKO, they like what Joshua Williamson did, and then all of a sudden, oh my God, Superboy Prime is that storyline's over, and now we have this. It's all lost in this Superman event. Some people are, I know online, are a little frustrated with that. I'm less so. I think there's payoff because I've been enjoying Supergirl. I've been enjoying Superman Unlimited. I've been enjoying Superman. I like all the super titles, and the way they've sort of come together here. I think it actually feels right to me. I'm enjoying it, and so I encourage people to pick this up. I really encourage people to pick this up. Hint, hint, hint. You definitely want to stay on board, at least for part 4.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like, the super family's big, and we've talked about these families before where, whether it's Spider-Man or the Green Arrow family or Super Family, Bat Family, what have you, the more characters you have, it diminishes the main character in a way, it makes them less special. If you have all these other characters that have similar power sets or similar skills or whatever. But there still is a tendency for that main character that all these other characters are sort of derivative of to kind of hog the spotlight in a way, right? Like, it's going to be the brightest light in the room. And when Superman is in a Superman book with other members of the Superman family, your attention is drawn to Superman. He's the most central figure. He's the most important figure. So I like that DC took him off the page for a little while and gave Superboy Prime a chance to shine. It felt like it gave a little more gravitas and a little more agency to a lot of the other characters, especially Supergirl, who is the one that recruited everybody to go and find out what was going on in El Cardero or whatever. So I appreciate it. And to me, it does feel like the right time to have Superman come back. If not now against Zod, then when, So I'm enjoying this as well. I will say that part of the reason I don't like reading ahead, though, is I don't want future issues to influence my rankings for past issues. So that is kind of one of the things that I mentioned. I also want to mention, before I talk about the variant covers for Superman Unlimited, I just got this notification. This is
Cassandra Cain
Perillo. That's the absolute Cassandra Cain. It's one of the variant covers.
Awesome.
And yeah,
that's not open order though, is it? That's for one of the retailers.
This is from Comic Mint. Yeah, and it's limited to only 500 copies.
Yeah,
it's a reasonable price when you consider that it's only 500 copies. It's only $30. It's $29.95, unless you want a graded 9.8, then it's $99.95. And if you want it signed 9.6 or better, it's $150. And if you want a remark, it's $250. But yeah, if you just like the cover and want to pick it up, it's not bad. $30 plus shipping, obviously. So anyway, covers here. The main cover behind Rockies by Guillaume March. Acco handles the one in the middle there. And then we've got Torunn Clark variant on the one behind me. So, and then Mark Spears continuing his sort of trading card series of Superman covers, which I don't care for any of those. I'm normally just not in general a Mark Spears fan, but anyway, moving on to collected editions this week, we have a few of them, starting with Batman and Son Compact Edition. Again, these are the $9.99 smaller form factor. This collects Batman issues 655 through 658 and 663 through 666 for only $10. Then we've got the latest Batman Superman World's Finest volume, which is volume 9, which covers the merger. And this is when Batman and Superman had to merge, and the Joker and Lex were also merged. So that happened in Batman Superman World's Finest 44 through 49. We've also got continuing the DCKO trade paperbacks, this time focused on the Justice League Unlimited issues. So it collects all the Justice League Unlimited issues that tied in with DCKO. Specifically, that's numbers 12 through 16. Then we've got DC's Finest Events, Crisis on Infinite Earths Part 2 trade paperback, collecting a bunch of the tie-ins. And I won't read them off, but it collects the only actual issue of Crisis that it collects is Crisis on Infinite Earths number 5. Everything else that it collects is a tie-in. So again, DC's putting these out in chronological order. So you know if you pick up all the DC's finest events, part 1, part 2, part 3, whatever, and read them in order, you're going to get not only the main spine series but all the crossover issues in chronological order of where you should read them. But that being said, maybe you don't care that much about the tie-ins and you just want to read the main series. It went on final order cutoff on Monday this week, but there is a compact edition of Crisis coming. So that's probably the cheapest way you could ever get the whole Crisis event. Again, it's smaller form factor, but all 12 issues for only $10. So too late to pre-order, but if your shop ordered a few, you might be able to put one on hold. Also, we've got a hardcover edition of the aforementioned Batman Superman World's Finest, The Merger. We've got Harley and Ivy Life and Crimes trade paperback, which collects the entirety of the Erica Henderson series that we reviewed recently, all 6 issues. This one's appropriately timed as well with the Lanterns TV show debuting, which I haven't had a chance to watch the first episode yet. But anyway, Green Lantern.
It's awesome.
That's awesome. I'm hearing a lot of good things about it. But anyway, Green Lantern Corps Volume 2 from Morgan Hampton. This is Morgan, taking over on his own. So it's collecting issues 10 through 13, as well as DCKO Green Lantern Corps Galactic Slam, which that issue was actually written by Jeremy Adams. But yeah, if you want to get caught up on Green Lantern Corps, I definitely recommend you do that. And then there's also a Green Lantern Corps Recharge trade paperback, which collects the best-selling 5-issue miniseries from, I think it was the early 2000s, because it was Dave Gibbons, Jeff Johns, Patrick Gleason handled most of the art on that. So it was definitely a very popular series at the time. And then finally, 100 Bullets Book 5 trade paperback, which collects issues 81 through 100 of the 100 Bullets series from Brian Azzarello and Eduardo Riso. All right, so those are your collected editions for the week. Pretty sure Rocky went first last week with the rankings, so I'll fire off my rankings first this time. I've got New Titans number 6 coming in last at rank 13. At rank 12, I've got Lobo number 6 coming in at rank 11. I don't have anything apparently, so I must have. How did I must have 2 that are the same, but I don't. Oh yeah, I see it. Okay, I've got 2 books at number 4, so we're gonna make that 5. Okay, so then that would put Batwoman at number 11 for me, and then at number 10 I would have Catwoman number 90, and then at number 9 I would have Wonder Woman 36. I'm changing these on the fly as I go. And then at number 8 I've got Nightwing 141, and then coming in at number 7, so that one's getting bumped, is Batman Superman World's Finest number 54. At number 6 I've got Superman Unlimited number 16. At number 5 I've got Dark Knights of Steel number 2. Coming in at rank 4 I've got Absolute Green Arrow number 4. Coming in at number 3 I've got Deathstroke the Terminator number 6. And then at number 2 I've got End of Life 7. And book of the week for me this week is Absolute Flash number 18.
That is surprising to me. I thought you'd have Absolute Green Arrow up there. That's interesting.
I enjoyed it, but it felt like a little bit more of a setup issue than anything. I really struggled. I almost put it at 3, but Deathstroke it edged it out just based on the emotionality of that issue. So,
well, okay. Well, that sort of frees it up for me, but because it's Absolute for me as well. But I'll get my rankings first coming in dead last at 13 was Batwoman, number 6. Number 12, I put Batman Superman World's Finest, 54. 11, New Titans, 38. Coming in at number 10 was Lobo, 6. Coming in at number 9 was Superman Unlimited, 16. Number 8, Wonder Woman, 36. Number 7, Nightwing, 141. Coming in at number 6, Catwoman, 90. My top 5. In 5th place, Dark Knights of Steel, Part 2, number 2. Number 4, coming in at number 4, Deathstroke the Terminator, number 6. End of Life, number 7, made number 3. And my top 2, coming in at number 2. And boy, these were interchangeable, but you made it easy for me. I put Absolute Flash 18, I'll put it second, and then Absolute Green Arrow 4, I'll put it number 1. To show some absolute love, because I just, Absolute Green Arrow was just fantastic. I think it's just, again, another great week for the Absolute universe.
Yeah, this is definitely one of the closest rankings we've ever had. Like, most of our rankings are within 1 or 2. Maybe the exception being Batman Superman World's Finest, 54. I have it at 7. You have it at 12. That's 5 apart. That's the biggest gap. Everything else is really close. I mean, Catwoman, I've got at 10. You've got at 6. That's 4 away. Mm-hmm. And then, Superman Unlimited, I have at 6. You have it at 9. That's also 3. But I mean, everything is within a couple, which is interesting, because oftentimes we're wildly. I'll rank something dead last, and you've got it as your book of the week. So, anyway, that's going to do it for this episode, everybody. Really appreciate you all tuning in. Don't forget that the Comic Source content, including the DC Spotlight I do with Rocky every week, is available audio only on the Comic Source podcast feed. Just go to whatever app or platform you use, do a search for the Comic Source and subscribe, and you can go back and listen to thousands and thousands of previous episodes if you desire. And if you did happen to find us audio only and you want to check out the DC Spotlight every week and see the covers and see the art and see our smiling faces, just head over to YouTube, go to Rocky's channel, Comic Space Boom, ! Like, comment, subscribe, ring that notification bell. You know what to do. And as long as you're at YouTube, might as well subscribe to the Comic Source as well, where I drop all my interviews. Spawn Daily will be coming back at some point once I get caught up on a few other things. And obviously other convention coverage and all sorts of great stuff. So we appreciate the support as always. Don't forget, Gavin and Lucas Meyer, send me your address so I can send you guys some Comic Source weekly shirts. Josh reached out and got me his address, so that one's coming. And then a few other people that have reached out, and be sure to include your size and your address, because again, they're $10 and then whatever the actual cost of shipping is. And I'm also going to I'm going to give away one more in this issue for somebody that in the comments can give me the title and the artist of a song that Rocky inadvertently quoted in this episode while doing a review. And when he said it, and my wife, this drives my wife crazy when I do this, she'll say a phrase and I'll immediately, like if that phrase is a song lyric, I'll immediately start singing the song. So like, I'll give you a perfect example. Yesterday, she got a message from her best friend. Her best friend lives in Seattle. And this was her best friend, like all through high school and everything. And her best friend wants her to come and visit and says, hey, I'll get your plane ticket for you if you want to, come for a visit in October for a weekend.
Yeah.
And so my wife comes in, she tells me and asks me, and she's like, do you care if I go or whatever? And I said, go if you want to go. Stay if you want to stay. And I started singing Mike and the Mechanics, and she wanted to throw something at me because I do that all the time. But that's what popped into my head. I was like, well, go if you want to go, or stay if you want to stay. And then immediately my mind went to, I think, in song lyrics. You guys maybe didn't know that about me. So anyway, when Rocky said this line in this particular episode, he said a line that is a very prominent lyric in a song that's recent. It's definitely in the 2000s, and it's a song that I enjoy and I listen to all the time.
So now you got me thinking too.
And yeah, I was like, you know what? In that moment when you said it, I almost said it like right after you finished talking, but I was like, you know what? I'm gonna wait till the end.
Yeah, you almost broke into song.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, exactly. I did. Like I was singing the song in my head, but I'm like, I'm gonna do it at the end. That way, it doesn't give it away.
Okay.
But yeah, so if anybody can tell me what song I'm thinking of and the band name, and it'll be obvious if you listen and you know, because you very well may have listened or watched the whole episode, and you very well may have realized it when he said it and started singing the song in your head. So it's going to be the first person that says what the song is and the group, because it is a group. That's a hint. I will send that person a Comic Source Weekly shirt as well. So, little fun audio scavenger hunt for you guys this week. So, all right, I'm glad I didn't forget. So that was fun. So, anyway, that's going to do it for this episode, everybody. Appreciate you guys tuning in as always. We'll talk to you next time.
Catch you later.